According to the billionaire in South Africa, Mr. Rob Hersov, he's saying that him and his billionaire friends, whether from outside South Africa, some of them from within South Africa, they are no more interested in investing in South African businesses. If it's a South African business, it has to have an international a business model. It shouldn't just be solely based in South Africa. It should be international, and then maybe he will be interested. But a business that is just focused in South Africa is not interested in that. It's trying to be a globalist investor, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. I mean, things are collapsing in South Africa. Businesses are not making money. Things like that are happening. So you rather invest in businesses that can make money even outside of South Africa. But I want you to listen to him, what he had to say about this. Listen here.
My wife loves it in South Africa, doesn't want to leave. I love it here. I don't want to leave. So there's an interim step. You know, I don't think I'll ever leave. You know, carry me out in a box, frankly. I'm staying. I love it here. I'll stay and fight and do my best. But investing is a different issue. I am not investing anymore in pure South African businesses. I'm looking for businesses that have international potential, or at least the option of having, 80% plus hard currency revenues. I'm not risking any, and I'm not investing outside of the Western Cape. Forget it. I'm not going near KZN Natal. Sorry about that.
You went to school in KZN. I grew up in KZN, so we both have quite
I went to school there.
Yeah, deep affection for the province. How are you seeing the province's future now that MK has emerged as such a massive force there?
So I think one solution is to somewhat disarm MK by hiving off KZN to MK and IFP. You know, there's talk of secession. I mean, there's always been this Cape exit, but on the day that I was born, 9th of October, 1960, Warren Wheatley gave me the cover of the Natal Herald, I think it was called, and it was Natal pushes to secede from South Africa. So I was born a secessionist. And why shouldn't there be the country of Zululand, the kingdom of Zululand, and hand KZN to MK and IFP and be done with it? And, I feel terribly sorry for anyone that's there, but KZN is a disaster. Durban is falling apart, and it's all down to the Zumaites and the MKs of destroying that province, and it's gone. It's unfixable in my view. So let's slice it off. Bye-bye. Move on.
And if that happens, surely the pressure for Western Cape secession would be irresistible.
Maybe not, because at that point, you've MK's hopefully gone with KZN, and the Western Province will have way more influence on what's left of South Africa. And I am assuming for that to take place, it's an ANC-DA combination, which will create some stability in the country, And I do think at that point, the Western Cape and the DA will have way more influence than their 22%. So we stand a chance. When there's a turnaround situation in a business, as quickly as possible, you get rid of the management, you slice off the pieces that aren't working, and you have an urgent meeting with the creditors to say, we ain't going to pay you back at all unless you accept our new terms. So I think slicing off MK and KZN, to me, is one of the ways forward.
Rob, many South Africans are confused. They look to people like you for guidance. What would your guidance be for families in this country right now?
So, AfriForum, the Sakaligas, Free Market Foundation have been saying, state-proof yourself, your street, your town, your municipality, and that is absolutely crucial. We have to state-proof ourselves to protect ourselves and our families and our towns and villages against the state. So that's primary. Secondly, I've always said from the day I came back, focus on businesses where you have international exposure. So you're not entirely tied to South Africa. And if your children have the opportunity after matric or after university to go overseas, study and build skills abroad, do it. Now's the time to do it. Because there's going to be less opportunity going forward. And we have to fix the country before it's worth these hundreds of thousands of extraordinary young South Africans abroad considering coming back, or the immense wealth that South Africans have created abroad considering reinvesting. The main South African families, the main 10 billionaire families or 20 billionaire families overseas are not investing back in South Africa. None of them. And there's a reason. They look at South Africa and go, Looney Tunes there.
Well, I guess it also relates to the South African companies who've got 1.5 trillion rand in cash on their balance sheets, which is not being reinvested. So what would spark that? What would change that approach and make South Africa investable again, as against the practical consequence right now of being uninvestable?
So what matters most to South Africans? It's employment, safety and security, and all the basics, okay, which the ANC has been unable to deliver. In some form of partnership with the Government of National Unity, the GNU of the DA, IFP, and others, as long as MK is not trying to destabilize and create civil unrest, which I think they will do, it is the Russian playbook. As long as we can create that stability, opportunities arise, because there will have to be privatization from a government level of state-owned enterprises, or privatization by default, which has in some ways happened in the electricity sector, where the big mining companies didn't really wait for permission to do over 100 megawatts of power. They went and just did it themselves in advance of the ruling coming through. So I think we have to do that. We have to not ask permission and maybe beg forgiveness down the line, just get on with doing what we have to do to survive. So that's the only way forward, is for the new government to deregulate, focus more on private enterprise, encourage investment, and privatize state-owned enterprises, or what's left of them. The Western Cape must get control of its rail services, of its rail network, because it is fixable. Alan Winde and Jordan Hill-Lewis, two fantastic people, fantastic politicians, have a plan in place to revitalize the rail systems in the Western Cape. And if we can do it in the Western Cape, it can be done in other parts of South Africa, but only by private enterprise and forward-thinking governance.
And reading through the lines, it's an exciting time, but a very dangerous time. And if it were to break the right way, this could be the best country in the world still.